Begin Self-Publishing, episode number 67, Blogging with Leslie Samuel.
Interested in self-publishing but don't know where to start? Want to get your book onto Amazon? Want to hold your paperback book in your hands? Learn how on the Begin Self-Publishing podcast with your host, Tim Lewis.
In this episode, I talked to Leslie Samuel, who's a renowned blogger, who for several years has had his own biology blog, where it actually got him to the level where he actually got a professorship out of having a blog. But he's also run several other blogs and now runs a blog all about teaching people how to blog, as well as his biology blog. He's also an expert in several areas of social media. Some may ask why I'm doing a show about blogging, as it's not directly related to self-publishing. However, I think for promotion, it's worth all authors knowing that blogging is an option for increasing their audience. And also the fact that in some ways blogging is in itself a form of self-publishing. If rather than creating, say, short fiction books or short non-fiction books, you could just create all that content on a blog and grow an audience that way so that you can then sell them other products. So in effect, blogging is a potential way of doing self-publishing. So now over to the interview. Hello, Leslie, and welcome to the show today.
Hey, Tim. Thank you so much for having me on. Happy to be here.
You're the person who runs the Become a Blogger site. Clearly, blogging has changed your life. Do you think this is still possible now?
Oh, I definitely think it's still possible now. I see it happening all the time. Blogging really is a way for you to build a platform. And once you have a platform, there's so much you can do. It can open up so many opportunities for you. It's opened up opportunities for me and so many people that I know that have been actively blogging. So I definitely, not that I think it's still possible, I know it's still possible because it's still happening each and every day.
Yeah, because obviously, you've even got a job from your expertise in terms of blogging. You've even become a professor on the back of a blog, haven't you?
Yes, I did. I started a biology blog because I wanted to test out these blogging principles in a niche that was, something that I was passionate about. So I started the biology blog because I always wanted to be a university professor. Didn't have a PhD, didn't have all of the typical things that you would have to become a professor. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to wait to become a professor. I'm probably not going to become a professor. But what I can do is I could still teach the things that I would want to teach if I were a professor, but I can do it on my blog. And I started doing that. That blog grew relatively rapidly, at least from my perspective. And that blog actually landed me a job as a university professor without a PhD, without any kind of a doctoral degree. But I was able to do that for a few years, and it would not have happened if I didn't have my biology blog.
Okay, and did they approach you, or were you kind of interviewing people from that university on your blog or something like that?
No, it's interesting how it happened because they were looking for an anatomy professor. It was in a doctoral program for physical therapy. And what they do when they're looking for a professor is they form a search committee, and then they send out a bunch of letters to anyone that graduated with anything that's remotely related. And I got one of those letters. I don't know if it was a mistake or not because I'm not a physical therapist. I don't have a PhD, but I got one and I said, you know what, I'm going to apply. I applied, and when the chair of the department told me this after the fact, when he saw my application and he read through it, he just kind of put it at the bottom of the pile because it didn't really make sense. But I actually made an appointment to go and meet with him, and I went in to meet with him and I showed him what I was working on. And he was just kind of blown away with it. And he said, if you hadn't come in today, you wouldn't have even gotten an interview. Now I'm going to make sure you at least get that. So he made it possible. Make a long story short, I had the interview and they offered me the job the same day, which, it wasn't a surprise because there were other things that were happening that made me feel as if this was going to happen. But it was definitely not what I expected from beforehand.
Now, the obvious question people are going to say about blogging is, apart from the vague possibility of getting a job off the back of it, how do people make money from blogging?
Yeah, that's like the first question anyone ever asked me, because I left that job as a professor to blog full time. And when I tell people, they're always kind of like, okay, but how do you make money from that? And then I have to go into this exact explanation. I think that there are a number of ways that you can make money. But first, let's think about what blogging is. Blogging is you creating content, hopefully on a consistent basis, putting it out there and building an audience. All right. Now, once you have an audience, once you have people that are showing up and listening to you, that are consuming your content, you have an opportunity to do something that, quite frankly, it's the foundation of any business, to sell stuff. Now, if you are someone that, let's say you started a biology blog or something of that sort, and you get an audience of people that are studying biology, struggling in their biology classes, there are ways that you can make money with that, because now you have that audience. Maybe you create a study guide, which is one of the things that I did, and maybe you sell that study guide from that blog, and a certain percentage of the people that are coming to the blog are going to buy that study guide. Or maybe you provide some kind of a service. Maybe I want to offer tutoring. And if I have biology tutoring and people are watching my videos, they're consuming my content, and they are learning so much from it, and they see that I also can do one-on-one tutoring, why wouldn't they sign up for that one-on-one tutoring if they want to get that extra help? You can promote your own products. You can promote services. You can promote other people's products and services. For example, I found a study guide before I had my own. I found a study guide that was available online that I could promote as an affiliate. And whenever I promote it, if someone buys it, I get a commission from that. So that's called affiliate marketing. You can also have ads on your site. That's one of the main ways that I monetize my biology site. I have ads on there. And companies are looking for ad space online because they know that can bring exposure to their businesses. And that's another way of making money. The key is this. If you have an audience, you can monetize that audience. If your audience comes to know, like, and trust you and appreciate the value that they get from you, when they want to take it to the next level, who are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to you. So that's kind of the basis of how you make money with a blog. You have an audience and you sell them stuff, or you sell companies stuff, in other words, like ad space on your site, and you get paid depending on what it is you're promoting and what it is you're doing.
So if somebody who's listening to this show's primarily about self-publishing on Amazon and other things, but they say, well, let's forget about like self-publishing, I want to become a blogger. Obviously, the next question they would kind of ask is, well, how long is it going to take to sort of see any success from having a blog?
So that's kind of like asking the question, how long is it going to take for my business to be successful? What's the answer to that question? Well, I don't know. It depends, right? It depends on your business. It depends on your audience and how quickly you're able to get an audience. I mean, there are people that put stores up that all of a sudden they have a ton of traffic. And there are other people that put stores up and get absolutely no traffic, and eventually they close their business. That's why most businesses fail within a year. So it's a difficult question to answer. However, I will say this, that there are people that start blogs and they start making money almost immediately. And then there are the majority of people that really don't make any significant amount of money with their blog. And then there are people that it takes them a while, and whether that while is 6 months, a year, or sometimes even longer, then they start making some money with their blog. So it all depends on, it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on your niche. It depends on your audience. It depends on the value that you're providing. It depends on the work that you put in to get people to come to that blog, and the processes that you set up to get people from being just a casual visitor to your blog to being a customer. When I started my blog, I made money. I mean, I started my blog in 2009. So things have changed significantly. Of course, social media wasn't as big as a factor as it is right now. But I started making money the next month. But that's because I had been having some success with my business from before, and I had a little bit of an audience even before I had a blog. So when I started my blog, that audience kind of moved with me to my blog, and then I started doing things to monetize that blog. So it depends. It's very possible to make money with a blog. You have to have the right systems in place. You have to have somewhat of an understanding of how to turn your blog into a business, and then you have to take action.
Okay. Now, if we take the other extreme of somebody who, say, writes mystery books or something like that, what would you say it's worthwhile for them to start a blog to try and find readers for their book? Or would you say that blogging maybe isn't the thing to do in that case? I mean, is blogging useful as an activity for people who aren't looking to make money from a blog per se?
Well, are they looking for an audience? And if the answer is yes, then I think blogging can be something that helps them to get that audience. Because think about how it happens, right? You start a blog, you create content, and one day someone shows up to that blog, and they show up to that blog and they like the content. It provides them with some kind of value, and they share it with their friends. And the friends like the content, and it provides them with value, and they share it with their friends. And the value, it may not be something where you're educating them. It may be something that you're entertaining them, and that's absolutely no problem. If I get a lot of entertainment from your site and I find value in that, and I share it with my friends, who then they share it with their friends, I think that's valuable. Not I think that's valuable, that's definitely valuable. Because if you're a mystery writer or any kind of fiction writer or nonfiction writer, you got to have people to actually buy your books. And if you're self-publishing, well, there's so many people self-publishing right now, and the ones that are making sales are the ones that actually have an audience, or they grow an audience. And one way to grow an audience is by having a blog.
How important would you say consistency is for people running a blog?
Oh man, I think it's extremely important. And here's why. If, let's say, you blogged today, and today is Wednesday, and then next week you blog on Monday, and then you don't blog for 3 weeks, and then the week after that you blog again, and then in a few months you blog again. If I am in your audience, I have no idea when to look for content. And at a certain point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop looking for content. However, if I know that whenever I come to Tim's blog, there's going to be a new article on Monday at 8 o'clock, and I find value in your content, what am I going to be doing on Monday at 8 o'clock? I'm going to be looking forward to your blog. I'm going to be coming to get that content. Or let's say you have a podcast. I mean, it doesn't matter how you're creating, or YouTube video, whatever, a YouTube channel, whatever content you're creating. You want to get that audience to know and understand that they can count on you to show up consistently, because then they're going to start showing up consistently. And that's exactly what you want. I do a podcast every Wednesday. It goes live at 7 a.m. And there have been times when there were significant things that happened in my life where, for example, with the birth of my daughter, or the birth of my son, or something else happens where I am not prepared enough to have content going out consistently during those weeks. And every time, not that it's happened a lot, but like the 2 times that it has happened, right after I come back, I notice that there is a decrease in the number of people that are listening to my podcasts. And sometimes it's by hundreds of subscribers. That's significant, because what happens is it's Wednesday and they're looking for that content and it's not there. And then the next Wednesday comes and it's still not there. At a certain point, it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to stop looking for that content. You want the exact opposite to be the case. You want to be consistent so that your audience can know what to expect, so that they can keep coming back for more.
On a sort of wider issue then, you've obviously mentioned podcasting, and you've mentioned video, and you've mentioned clearly writing in terms of blogging. What sort of criteria should people use in determining what sort of content they want to provide, or is it really just personal choice?
I think it's a combination of personal choice and really understanding your audience. All right. So let me give some specific examples. When I started my biology blog, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach concepts in biology. I wanted to take complicated concepts and break them down kind of one step at a time, so that instead of trying to understand the entire nervous system, for example, I'm going to just tell you what a neuron is. Or I'm going to talk to you about an action potential and what that is. Or the function of the nucleus of a cell. Now, I know that one of the best ways to teach this kind of content is to actually show it to you. If I'm just talking about these biological concepts and you can't see what I'm talking about, it's going to be harder for you to retain that information. So I thought to myself, the best format for me is going to be video, because that's the format that I believe is going to help my audience the most. Written articles are great, but it's sometimes a little harder to explain things when it's just text that you're reading, especially when you're dealing with biology and people are already intimidated by biology. But when I can explain to you how the action potential works and show it to you on a screen and draw things and all that good stuff, that makes it more practical for you to learn. So in that case, I am taking the perspective of what would provide the most value to my audience. Now, on the other end, I'm going to take my personal preference into consideration as well. Because if, for example, I've seen everybody podcasting, but I have a really hard time just sitting down and having a conversation and sharing my thoughts, that might not be the medium for me. Maybe I'm a better writer. Maybe writing comes naturally to me and it makes it significantly easier for me. Well, if that's the case, doing that will make it easier for me to create that content and get it out there to the people that are going to find value in it. So I think you got to take personal preference into consideration, but you also have to take your audience into consideration. And quite frankly, I think they're the more important factor. How can you provide the most value to them?
I think you recommend that most bloggers use basically self-hosted WordPress installations. But why is that?
You are correct, except I recommend that all bloggers use a self-hosted WordPress installation. And there are a number of reasons for that. You can go to WordPress.com and start a blog for free. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to deal with as many of the technical stuff because it's all hosted by WordPress. However, when you do that, you don't have full control over that blog. What do I mean by that? I've been blogging since 2008. And during that time, I have seen a number of people start blogs that have become very successful, in some cases making a significant amount of money. And then, from one day to the next, WordPress changes their terms of service, and as a result, your blog now violates their terms, and it is gone. Now, you can imagine building this business where you're making a significant income, or even if you're making, just a few $100s, which is still significant, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. That is something that if I am building a business, I don't even want to risk. It's the same concept of there are so many people that have built successful, quote unquote, successful businesses on Facebook until Facebook changes their algorithm and none of the people that like their page are actually seeing their content. What do you do now? A self-hosted blog is something that you own. You have full control of it. And I think when you're building a business, and for me, even when I'm building a personal blog, anything where I'm going to be providing value to people, I want to have control of it. I want to own it. I want to be able to build my email list the way I want to build my email list. I want to use the features that are out there that I know that I can take advantage of. So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to blogging, there are multiple platforms. Even if you want to do a self-hosted blog, WordPress isn't the only option. But WordPress has been around for a while, and there's such a huge community of developers behind it. to where if there's anything that I want to be able to do with my blog, there's most likely a plugin that's available that I can install very easily or relatively easily that expands the functionality of my site. Whether I want to add a shopping cart or whether I want to add specific kinds of landing pages and opt-in pages to get people to sign on to my email list. If you can think about doing something with WordPress, there's probably something out there that will enable you to do it. And in most cases, they're going to be free or relatively affordable. So in terms of the expandability and all that stuff, there's so much available for WordPress that in many cases are not as readily available for other platforms out there. So that's why I prefer WordPress as opposed to many of the others. And also it's relatively easy to use. And then in terms of self-hosted versus not self-hosted, I would much rather you have control of your business and not someone else.
All right. In terms of blogging itself, what would you say is the biggest thing that's changed since you started blogging?
Social media. When I started blogging, social media was here, but it wasn't as dominant as it is today. So we have all kinds of opportunities to get the word out there about our content. Now, along the same lines, there are also now so many people that are sharing content on social media that it can be a bit noisy, right? But I think social media gives us a different way of gaining an audience, a different way of connecting with our audience, and it helps us to take kind of the relationship to the next level. Because now you're not just coming to my blog and reading the content that I post there, but you're also maybe connected with me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever platform, and you're able to engage with me at a different level. And I think that helps to take the relationship to the next level. So that's one of the bigger things that have changed since I started my blog. And now also there are many more blogs today than there were back then. So there's a lot more competition, but from the way that I look at it, there are a lot more opportunities for collaboration because there's so many people that are doing this today that you can connect with, and that brings a significant amount of value to you and to them. So those are some of the big things that have changed. Another thing that have changed significantly, specifically with social media, is how all of the algorithms are functioning. Whereas in the past, it was significantly easier for you to post something on Facebook and get a significant amount of exposure. But today, not so much. And now it's more about the paid advertising than it ever was before. So there are a number of things that have changed that, quite frankly, I think makes this whole blogging thing even more interesting. And I think, where in the past, many people would advise you to build a business on Facebook, more people are saying don't do that today. They're saying own your own content and build your own platform. And I think it's becoming even more important to do that now.
Yeah, I think you're right there. What's your take on terms of the increased use of mobile phones and things like that to read blogs? How is that affecting blogging?
I think that's going to be, I think it's making some huge changes. For example, if I'm reading on a small screen, I'm reading on my iPhone or Android device or whatever the case might be, there's not as much real estate. And if I come to your site on my mobile device and your site is not mobile friendly, I'm going to be more likely to abandon your site. And that is something that we just have to take into consideration in 2016 and even more so beyond 2016. And then I think there are a number of companies that are trying to do something to get into this space and to be able to control and to influence how it happens. And you have Facebook Instant Articles, which is a feature that Facebook offers to make to load your site from within Facebook so that it loads very quickly on their mobile devices from within the app, and it gives a better user experience. You have Google that's coming out with that has launched their Google AMP in collaboration with so many other companies because they're all trying to help marketers and bloggers and writers and whoever it is that's creating content to help us optimize our content for these smaller screens. Because if we're not doing it, people are going to be abandoning our pages. And if the site is loading very slowly, if when it loads, it's not a good user experience, people are not going to stick around. And that is something that we really need to think about if we're blogging in 2016.
So if people want to find out about you and maybe find out in a lot more detail about all of these various points to do with blogging, how do they find out about you and your blogs?
Yeah, the best place to send them right now is to my coaching club, my Become a Blogger coaching club. If they go to bloggercoaching.com, what that is they'll be able to sign up for my coaching club for free for 30 days. They don't have to put in any credit card or anything of that sort, but it will allow them to go through a lot of my training. All of my courses, I make that available to them. They get access to live coaching calls. They can come on and ask me questions. They get access to a Facebook group and a number of different resources to kind of help to walk you through the process of, man, I don't even know what I'm going to be blogging about. So if you're at that stage, I have training to help you with that. All the way to how do you build the blog? How do you set it up? How do you optimize it for social media and for all those things? How do you create the right kind of content? How do you get people to your blog? And then how do you monetize that blog? I talk about all of those things in my different courses, and then I'm there to support you. So bloggercoaching.com is the best place for them to go.
Okay, and just in case anybody who's madly interested in biology has happened to hear about your biology blog, where would they go for that?
Yeah, they can go to interactive-biology.com. So interactive-biology.com, or just search for interactive biology and it'll be the first thing that comes up in Google.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for talking to me today, Leslie.
You are very much welcome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please stop by iTunes and rate and leave a review. This helps make the show more visible. For free resources, show notes, and other helpful content, join the community at beginselfpublishing.com.